new friends. We've got several introductions. I'm going to take chairman's privilege and start with mine. I have a young man here shadowing me today from the Scott County School. It's Great Crossings High School. Jordan McIntosh. Jordan, stand and wave to the group so everybody knows where you're at. He's behind the post. Welcome. Good timing on Jordan. He's off H member and chapter FFA officer. So welcome, Jordan. Any other members on our committee have guests they want to introduce? Representative Pfister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce Ryan Farley and Nick Nash. They're here with the Woodford County 4-H'ers. If you guys could stand up for just a minute. Woodford County. Yeah, they're already standing. Let's make them feel welcome, please.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. We're going to get on into our program because we've got quite a bit to do, but I guess we should start with calling the roll.
Representative All. Representative Callaway.
Present.
Representative Kleins. Representative Dixon.
Here.
Representative Graham.
Here.
Representative Hale.
Here.
Representative Hart.
Here.
Representative Kim King.
Present.
Representative Cook. Representative McPherson.
Here.
Representative Neighbors.
Here.
Representative Pollock.
Here.
Representative Pratt.
Here.
Representative Rayburn. Representative Stalker.
Present.
Representative Stevenson. Representative Tate.
Here.
Representative Thomas.
Present.
Representative Tipton. Representative Pfister.
Here.
And Chairman Heath.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We're duly constituted to conduct business. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We'll start first with Senate Bill 16. If Senator Schickel will come to the table and bring your guest. There are no strangers to this process, but Senator Schickel, I understand this is your first time to testify before House Ag Committee.
If my memory serves me correctly, Mr. Chairman, and I have never been here. This is my first time in 16 years, and I surely appreciate it. It's a great honor to be here, and it's a real thrill to meet all the 4-H'ers this morning.
Yes, thank you for coming. I understand this is your last session, so the timing was great. We're glad you got in here on your way out.
Thank you for hearing. Thank you for hearing this important piece of legislation.
So if you guys will introduce yourselves for the record, then the floor is yours, Senator Schickel.
I'm Ronnie Pryor with the lobbying firm Capital Solutions, and I'm a contract lobbyist for Tyson Foods and the Kentucky Poultry Federation.
My name is Graham Hall with Tyson Foods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, for hearing this important piece of legislation which protects our very important agriculture infrastructure. The bill has been talked about quite a bit in the Senate Agriculture Committee and on the Senate floor. And at this time, I'll let my two guests explain the bill.
We're going to, we have a motion on the committee sub. Let's get that in front of the group. Motion by Representative King, second by Thomas Walker. Walker Thomas. All in favor of adopting a sub signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm sure when most of you think about Tyson Foods, Representative Pratt, you think about chicken and poultry, and for good reason. Tyson is the largest poultry producer in the United States, but they're also the largest beef producer in the United States and the second largest pork producer in the United States. In terms of Kentucky, Tyson has 4,000 team members employed in Kentucky, and some of those Representative Kleins will be very familiar to you at the Claryville plant in Campbell County, and Representative Dixon at the Roberts plant and the Henderson-Webster County line. And although Representative Branscom's not on this committee, in Albany, and for those of you, I know Representative McPherson that has part of Warren County Tyson just opened what is believed to be the world's largest bacon plant in Warren County, employing 455 team members. In fact, it will make Wright Brand Bacon, which they own, and Jimmy Dean Bacon, which they own, and then certainly things for Costco and Kroger and things like that. You know their brands, you know Tyson Foods, you know some that I just mentioned, Hillshire Farm, Ballpark Franks, but they really have about 35 or 40 different brands. This bill is really an offshoot of a bill that this legislature passed that was sponsored by Representative Diane St. Onge in 2018 and Representative Jim Gooch in 2020, dealing with key infrastructure assets. The federal government during COVID and without COVID recognized that food manufacturers like Tyson Foods are considered critical infrastructure. And of course, this bill deals with key infrastructure assets. And I'll let Graham Hall with Tyson Foods explain the need to add food processors and certain farming operations to this bill.
Thanks, Ronnie. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee. This bill is important because we want to protect our facilities from unauthorized drone access. It could be issue with our security access points, or just protecting the identity of our team members or the USDA officials that oversee our work. We've had a couple instances where this has happened before. In Wilkesboro, North Carolina, we had a drone land on top of one of our live haul trucks. And recently, actually the day after we had this bill heard in the Senate, received this email, and I'd like to read it off. Tonight, between 1900 and 1930, as Live was going to their second break, 4 of our staff observed a large drone hovering over the receiving area, fan shed, and the energy building. The witnesses stated that it hovered directly over the energy building for 2 or 3 minutes, then circled the area and took off south. The witness said it appeared to be 200 to 300 feet above the energy building, so this could not come at a better time. This was at our Roberts facility. Every day we have heavy industrial activities being carried out, trucks being loaded and unloaded, the movement of equipment, and aside from just our facilities, this is also an animal safety issue. It could cause undue stress onto the animals that we farm, and could cause stress on our employees as well. So thank you for hearing.
We have a motion by Representative Tipton, second by Vice Chair Pfister. We have some questions. Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being before us, Senator, right in front of you. No one recognizes me without the hat, so you're fine. I do plan on voting yes on this good bill, but I must ask, was your bill heard during the interim? My colleagues will understand the relevance.
Yeah. No, it was not. Fortunately, this committee did not have that rule.
Duly noted, and it will not affect my vote on your good bill. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions or comments? Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am always supportive of the ag industry, and I appreciate everything that happens because of ag and the fact, the jobs that you create and the feeding of our people. However, a bill like this has been struck down in federal court 4 different times for First Amendment violations. So I'm just wondering if you think that your bill has done something extraordinary that won't happen here.
Thank you for that question. We anticipated that question coming up. It also came up in the Senate, and so in abundance of caution, we ran the language through our Attorney General's office, and they did make some slight changes over in the Senate to the bill to make sure that it would pass constitutional muster.
Thank you. We do have another. Representative All, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry for my tardy this morning. Can I be recorded as being here in the meeting? I do have one question. In drafting this legislation, did you work with the Labor Cabinet at all on any of the particulars in this bill?
I think the answer to that, Representative All, is no. Senator Schickel had the bill drafted and worked on it over the summer with the Chief of Global Security for Tyson Foods. And again, it adds language to existing statute. If you look at the existing language that's been around for a few years, whether it's water supply systems, cell phone towers, TV towers, it simply adds language to this to make it, I think it's a Class B felony, trespass. And again, you have to knowingly do it, so it's not an accident. And you have to have intent. And if you, I know you're very familiar with these facilities, or farmers, either one. This certainly affects farmers that raise poultry and livestock in general. It's not just poultry. But you don't fly over these by accident. You can see these a long ways away, and they're set on big tracts of land. So if you're hovering over them between 9 and 9:30 at night, like happened about 30 days ago, it's for a reason. It's not like you're going to use that as an accidental thing to show movies to your kid. It's not a 12-year-old with a birthday present doing that. So, but to answer your question, to my knowledge, that was not done.
Follow up.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the intent of the bill, I think, is the right intent, and I agree with your comments here. I think there's some, often one of our favorite phrases up here is unintended consequences, and I think there's some unintended consequences that this legislation, the way it's written, would make it harder for some of the employees and people in those facilities to report problems and labor incidents. And I think if we would slow down and maybe reach out to a few more stakeholders like the Labor Cabinet, we could have massaged that language and had a stronger bill. So,
may I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. Point well taken. However, the bill was filed the first week of session. So there was, it's been out in the public domain for a long time.
Thank you. We don't have anyone else asking to speak. We do have an individual that requests to speak on the bill. She'll need to come to the table. Audrey Ernstberger? Yes. So if you gentlemen...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll bring you back in just a minute. And we do apologize. We're going to have a time frame because we've got some members that have to leave at 9 o'clock to go to licensed occupation. So I'll set a timer so we're being fair, but not over 5 minutes, please.
Duly noted, Mr. Chairman.
You'll introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Audrey Ernstberger. I'm a staff attorney and lobbyist for the Kentucky Resources Council, a nonprofit and nonpartisan group of lawyers, policy experts, and advocates working for environmental quality, justice, and health for the Commonwealth. I will keep this brief. Thank you for the time to be here. I haven't seen the committee sub, but first I'd like to start by thanking the sponsors for their willingness to address some of the language issues that we brought up in the Senate. I look forward to looking at a copy of the substitute after this committee session ends. I am hoping that some of the issues, I'll just run through them very briefly, that the substitute addresses are the issues that we addressed in the Senate. And that would be how overly broad the conduct is that could be criminalized by the language of the bill. And this is in part because of the very broad definitions that were included in the Senate substitute version that we commented on committee. And it referenced commercial food manufacturing and processing facilities, which could define food to mean food or drink, meaning that the ultimate application of this bill could be applied to the at a bourbon distillery, or an animal feeding operation, which means an operation where animals are stabled or confined with any number of animals for more than 45 days, which would end up roping in entities like Churchill Downs or Keeneland. And essentially some of the activities that were criminalized, there were two buckets of activities. The language that described them was fairly broad, meaning that an individual just had to operate certain items like a video recording device or an audio recording device or photographic equipment on or above the land without landowners' consent. But there wasn't clarification that the actual device that you were operating had to be, had to solely have that capacity. So for example, you could have an iPhone which has the capacity to act as an audio recording device or video recording device, and all you had to do was knowingly operate it on or above these entities' property, meaning that it could loop in really, really broad actions like taking a picture of your child at a petting zoo. And subsection 2, one of the issues that we had was that some of the criminalized activity was recording or distributing any part, procedure, or action, and it didn't account for a neighboring landowner taking picture of the part procedure of an action of one of these entities, a CAFO, AFO, or the commercial food manufacturing processing facility, while he or she was on his or her own property. We're concerned about defending Kentuckians' closely held values of property rights, and we hope that those are some of the issues that were addressed in the committee sub. In the interest of time, I really appreciate all of yours and the opportunity to be here and testify before you. Thank you so much, and I will conclude our remarks.
Thank you, and we'll let our presenters come back to the table. Representative McPherson has a question or comment.
Yes, I was just going to ask, does this like silo a piece of property, and at what level, maybe I haven't read it enough to know it, is there a cap on this of what the top, like 5,000 feet, or what footage? Or?
It does not, Representative McPherson. What it says, you can't be hovering over your farm operation that meets any definition in this, taking photographic pictures, video, and distributing it without your permission.
Okay.
And again, all the things that was previously described, if you have permission to do those, then it's not an issue. The issue comes in when you're doing it for without permission, because you're right, there is property rights.
Correct.
And there's also a right to privacy. And so, but it doesn't have a ceiling like 300 feet or 500 feet, because as drones get more technologically advanced, what you could do at 300 feet now, you may be able to do at 3,000 feet now.
So it just has to do with the property rights as much as anything, not the flyover rights or anything else.
Absolutely.
Correct. Thank you.
And the right to privacy.
No, correct. Thank you.
Representative Stalker.
Good morning. Thank you so much. My question for you is a little bit twofold. The first is, how the frequency in which this is happening to the company, and also why is this occurring? Why are these unauthorized drones that you don't know the individual flyers of them? Why are they frequenting your property?
Thank you for the question. This is happening very frequently. We have several instances, which I'd be happy to provide to y'all from Global Security. Two of the instances that I am aware of, one was a CNN reporter who was trying to collect some data on one of our facilities in Arkansas. Another one was a PETA employee who was collecting data for a story that they were doing. And those are sometimes problematic because the narrative could be created that's not true.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, we're going to take the vote. Sorry, Representative Graham, I didn't see you.
I just want to follow up on that question. What is causing them to want to gather information? What is the purpose, or why are they doing, or what has happened that is making them want to basically investigate what's going on?
Sure, thank you. I think, as everyone in this room knows, we're probably the most heavily regulated industry in the country, and whatever narrative that they can create about what we're doing as far as a business, and most of the time it can be very harmful for us.
Representative, I'll address the elephant in the room. We all know that there's controversy over the role of animals in our society and what we eat and what we don't eat. And there's different advocacy groups that have different opinions of those. And with the advent of drone technology, this gives those advocacy groups another tool in the toolbox, which sometimes can be harassing.
So, may I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
My question is there some incidents that have happened that people are aware of, and are those incidents continuing? And is that why they are following up? Because there's still some problems there?
No, not that there's any problems. The problem is that there's unauthorized drone access over our facilities, and a narrative can be created that's problematic for us.
And Representative Graham, there was a mention of cell phones by a previous presenter. We don't take cell phones from employees. What we do take, if you come to visit the plant or I come to visit the plant, we take your cell phones because it's unauthorized use. And I think we're not the only business that does that. A lot of government businesses do that, and a lot of private businesses do that for a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, the people who are wanting to surveil us, it's not because of an individual issue or one that's happened recently or one that's been in the news. I think, as Mr. Graham talked about, they're trying to create a narrative that will help them sell what they want to sell. Again, we're regulated by everybody that you can imagine, and I think it'd be hard to find an industry more regulated from state and federal regulators than us. If there's a problem, somebody with authority will tell us that.
We'll take the roll.
Representative All.
May I explain my vote briefly?
Yes.
I'm going to be a pass this morning because the way I'm reading the committee sub on page 2, line 25, it says operates an unmanned aircraft system, and then it goes into comma, 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 all these other things as key reference, and it references back to page 1, subsection 12, a commercial food manufacturing and processing facility in which food is manufactured or processed. And so I think of a place in Louisville town, like, Butcher Town, where this could accidentally go above and beyond the intent of this bill, which would restrict those employees from being able to carry cell phones with them to report labor incidents. So if we were willing to change that part of the bill, I could be supportive, but at this time I'm going to be a pass. Thank you.
Representative Callaway.
Yes.
Representative Kleins.
Explain my vote, please.
Yes.
So Tyson Foods has been in my district almost as long as I've been alive, and really they've asked so little of our district, and yet they employ over 700 people. So today they're asking just a little bit of us, and I'm happy to support what they're asking. And I think if anything is accidental, I think any issue that is accidental can simply be resolved with a conversation. But if it's not accidental, then it needs to be addressed. So I'm a yes today.
Representative Dixon.
Yes.
Representative Pfister.
I'd like to explain my vote if I could.
Yes.
I don't see this issue being any different than somebody wanting to peep in your windows or watch your wife at the swimming pool or whatever. It's a privacy issue and property rights issue, and I'm going to vote yes.
Representative Graham.
I'm going to pass on this. I'm going to look at this and go through it again and make a decision on the floor.
Representative Hale.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Kim King.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Cook.
Even if we didn't hear it in the interim, I'm a yes today.
Representative McPherson.
Yes.
Representative Neighbors.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Pratt.
Yes.
Representative Rayburn.
I'm a yes, and I would like to record my attendance today. Thank you.
Representative Stalker.
Briefly explain my vote.
Yes.
I'm a no today. I have some concerns about the fact that labor was not consulted. I understand that this bill has been out for quite some time. Your point is valid. I also think it is imperative that we as legislators reach out to those individual stakeholders within our community and bring them to the table when crafting thoughtful policy. I'm also concerned that we are taking what is being presented as an inconvenience to a company at the risk and safety of workers and potentially work that could or may not be ethically being produced. So for now, I'm a no. Thank you.
Representative Stevenson.
Briefly explain my vote. I'm going to pass today. I really want to get to a yes on this bill for the ag community and our producers. But worker safety is just a little bit of a sticking point for me here. So I need to do just a little bit more digging, and hopefully I can get to a yes on the floor. Thank you.
Representative Tate.
Yes.
Representative Thomas.
Aye.
Representative Tipton.
Yes.
And Chairman Heath.
Yes. We have 17 yes votes, 1 no vote and 3 passes. Bill passes with favorable expression. Same 2 should pass on the House floor. Congratulations, Chairman, Senator Schickel, and thank you for your service to the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Now going to hear House Bill 621, Chairman Heath and the State Fair Board.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we'll just be brief. If some of you guys can hang on long enough to cast your vote before you leave for L&O. Richard Heath, State Representative for House District 2.
David Beck, President and CEO of the Kentucky Venues.
As you can see,
we have a motion on the bill and a second.
Proceed. The bill is self-explanatory, and after we pass the bill, President Beck is going to talk about Kentucky Venues, but I want to get the vote in before our L&O members have to leave.
Let's go ahead and call roll.
Representative All.
Yes.
Representative Callaway.
Yes.
Representative Kleins.
Yes.
Representative Dixon. Representative Pfister.
Yes.
Representative Graham. Representative Hale.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative King.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Cook. Representative McPherson.
Yes.
Representative Neighbors. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Pratt. Yes. Representative Rayburn.
Yes.
Representative Stalker.
Present.
Representative Stevenson.
Yes.
Representative Tate.
Yes.
Representative Thomas.
Aye.
Representative Tipton.
Yes.
And Chairman Heath.
Yes.
My apologies. Can you record me as a yes? Thank you so much. Just making sure everybody's awake.
The bill has passed. You said you had some comments you'd like to make now.
Yes, I'm going to turn it over to my guest and let him bring us up to speed on what's going on with Kentucky Venues.
Thank you to the members of this committee. Let me just say on behalf of the Kentucky State Fair Board and all of our staff, I want to express our sincere appreciation for the support that this Kentucky General Assembly has had. Many of you have been directly involved over the last several years in providing opportunities for it to be property enhancements, flexibility to do our job so we can compete with our competition around the world, not just in North America. So we want to say thank you sincerely for that. It makes a difference. Representative Heath asked that I share a little bit about our facility. I'll give you a brief update. I won't take too much of your time, but I'll be glad to address any questions you might have as well. We're excited about the progress that we're taking place. Give you an example. In 2023, we had 7.2 million people that came through our doors. 7.2 million people. That's 900,000 people downtown at the convention center and 6.3 at the Kentucky Exposition Center south of town out by the airport. We grew from 330 shows to 370 this past year. And we like to view our properties and our facilities as the largest classroom in the Commonwealth. And we have behind us here many 4-H members from around the Commonwealth. Miss Molly Webb, directly behind me, is the state president of Kentucky 4-H, and she serves on our board. She's from Barron County, Glasgow, Kentucky, and we also have the president of the FFA also serving on our board. And they're there, and they have direct input. We seek their advice and counsel as we go with all of our shows and events. how we can better serve our clients, but also the young people of the Commonwealth and other states that visit us. So we're pretty excited about the success that we've had. With your help and support, hopefully we can continue that. A lot of people ask about the pandemic. Have we survived that? Yes, we have. This past year, we were 106% of the business compared to what we were prior to the pandemic, so that's a major increase. The year before, we were 23%, 73%. It would probably be hard to find any facilities like that in North America that had that kind of recovery. So I say I'm proud of our staff. They work hard and do a good job and try to serve our clients. About 70% of the hotel rooms in our region, not just a little, but the region of Kentucky, are occupied by the people that come through our properties. Even though we serve a lot of clients of every type of industry you can think of, this past year we had over 110 countries represented on our property that I'm familiar with. It may have been more than that. But we see the opportunity to introduce the Commonwealth to people around the world, but also look for business opportunities to help grow our economy. And so that's something we're also focused on and trying to partner with various groups, as we were last night with the World Trade Center, just trying to see what we can do to grow the business here in the Commonwealth. The bill you just endorsed, and thank you for your support of that, identifies in that law 6 existing shows. We have the Kentucky State Fair. This last year we had over 600,000 people. I like to look at where they came from. We had representatives, exhibitors from each of Kentucky's 120 counties. So that's something we look at first, as well as we see people from around the country that come there. We also have the World Championship Horse Show as a part of that show. That's another show that we own and operate. And then we have the North American Livestock Exposition. That's the largest purebred livestock show in the world. In addition to that, we have the Championship Rodeo. This past year, we had about 175,000 people attending that individual livestock event where people come and show. A lot of business is taking place for its breeding stock around the world, so it's another way to highlight what Kentucky has to offer. And we just finished the National Farm Machinery Show. We had well over 300,000 people on our property for 4 days of that event. Again, a very successful, over 900 exhibitors, 1,000 displays, and a waiting list for people to participate. So those of you able to be there, I recognize several of you that were at the show this year. Thank you for your support of that. So we're continuing to grow the business, and along with that, we had the Championship Tractor Pull, which was referenced in the law that you addressed a while ago. That Championship Tractor Pull, we had a sellout on Friday night, had a sellout on Saturday night, and the first time ever, we had a sellout for the Saturday noon. We had over 75,000 people attending the tractor pull. So I'm excited, enthusiastic about the future. I'm hopeful that 2024 will even be better than 2023. Thank you for your support. Anything I can do to answer questions or facilitate your visits, participation, just let me and members of our staff know.
Thank you. We do have a couple of questions. Representative All.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. More of a comment and then a question. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. I'm excited as a farm kid who grew up in that space. I'm very reminiscent and nostalgic every time I go to the state fairgrounds and get to experience it. In the growth that we've experienced in the last 20, 25 years is just remarkable, and I'm excited where we're going in the future. I do have a specific comment, excuse me, about Bourbon and Beyond, and I think there's been some conversations there about needing some certain things in regards to the expansion and how it might affect that event. Where are we with that specifically and those negotiations and trying to make sure they stay there right at the fairgrounds?
Well, we want them on the property. They bring over 300,000 people for their festivals. They went from 11 countries to 22 countries, including every state in the nation being represented at that festival. We signed a contract last Tuesday, moving forward. It's been about 4 months of negotiations back and forth, and we want them, we welcome them. They've been great partners. I've learned a lot from them, from how they do business, how they track their, but also we have to look out for the interests of the Commonwealth. And we try to treat all clients the same. And there's no secrets. The only questions are the timeline. Every client knows the kind of deals that are there. So we try to be fair, be friendly, but be firm in representing the Commonwealth. And we reach a conclusion. I believe if you come together, if you respect each other, you may have some disagreements in the aspect of a contract. If you respect where each side's coming from, you'll get to the right page and get a conclusion. And I think that's another example. We're working through that. We walked away with everybody being pleased as much as they could, and we want to continue to have their business in Louisville, Kentucky.
Representative McPherson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We appreciate so much what you all have done and continue to do. I just had a question about, are you looking to expand the what you have there as far as the events you have, or do you have places to put other events in? And what I'm one thing that I've been brought up in a conversation a few days ago was maybe taking the tax off of gold and bullion and stuff, and maybe having some of those events there if you had room for it. I know they probably don't come to Kentucky because of that.
Yes, sir. I'm pleased to say it's a challenge, but we're out of space. We have clients now using both properties the very same day. Because we do not have enough space. There's days that we have no space at all for a client. We have to use both properties to fulfill their needs. Thankful to this General Assembly for providing the funding for Phase 1. We have our architects in place. I thought when the money became available last July 1, we would immediately start breaking ground. Hopefully do that during the State Fair, where many of you were there to participate in that. Unfortunately, it's taken months to get to this point. But yet, we do have an architect in place, and we're looking forward to the expansion of the existing facilities for a space. In addition to that, the budget you passed in the House has Phase 2's funding in there too. Hopefully that will stay in the Senate, and we'll be able to start moving forward with Phase 2 development. But to answer your question specifically, yes, we're looking to expand the space to give us more square footage of the type of facilities that need. But we're looking for diversification in that facility, where you may have a livestock today show, you deodorize it, clean it down, and be able in 2 days have a trade show there. And we're looking at how we can do that. You take Freedom Hall, for example, now the home of Bellarmine's games, both men and women's basketball games. That facility, the engineers tell me, is as good as it was the day it was made. But we had to do a lot of cosmetic work. We put new electronic signs, we need to change the seats. So we're looking to upgrade existing property, but also expand property where we can. We're also looking to school property on Crittenden to be able to access that, to allow us to do the flat fields around the property, and that's important to have access. So we're working with the superintendent and others there locally to do that. A lot of partners come to play here, and everybody's got to be together. And I feel like from a tourism side that I've observed since I've been in this role, we've always had good communication. Now we've got to have good coordination. I realize how hard it is to get a dollar. Either you earn it or General Assembly appropriates it, and I realize that. So we make sure we spend those dollars wisely and make the investments that won't just take care of tomorrow, but take care of us for many years to come. And that's the process we're going through in this planning with our board and our management team and the consultants that are advising us.
We look forward to all that, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David, thank you for being here today. I was thinking, I believe we've known each other for about 40 years now.
Yes, sir.
and when you were named to this position, I had no doubt you were the right person for the job, and you have not disappointed. I just want to say thank you. You haven't lived till you spent a week in the state fairgrounds showing dairy cattle. I've had that experience many years ago, and I know these young people have similar experiences now. Just to follow up to Representative McPherson's question, I know you've made a lot of cosmetic updates at the fairgrounds. You've painted what needed to be painted. You got the entrances in. Should the funding stay in the budget, and I feel very confident it would, could you go into a little more detail about what some of the plans are for the funding, and specifically, I know there's been discussion of a new livestock exhibition center.
Yes, sir. Those who build the property know we have a new Gate 1 and Gate 6. We plan to have the renovation of the other gates as well, Gate 4, Gate 2, and so that we'll have the wayfinding, the communications coming through, make it easier for the customer coming on the property, start their day out right as they come and visit facilities. And if you were looking down from the sky at the fairgrounds, look to the right where I saw the east side of I-65, and you'll see the east halls, north and south, be expanded, going further north toward downtown, but also spreading out to give us more useful space along that line, to make sure that we have the space we need for the facilities. Livestock facilities, and I want to say this on behalf of our board and management team. Our intent is, and our plans are, we will not sacrifice the agricultural shows. Livestock shows will continue to be the priority. The other events we have in agriculture get top priority on the dates. Those come first, as in the law. We'll make sure those are taken care of. We want to see what we can do to upgrade the livestock facilities. You look at that facility, some of those buildings were built and opened in 1956. And a lot have changed. We looked at facilities around the country. We realized how we can upgrade that. Take, for example, those of you that show livestock, you can't have hoofed animals on that concrete. You got to have another floor there for them to be on, or they slip and fall. The tar paper. we spend probably well over $300,000 a year, maybe closer to $400,000 a year on tar paper. That's labor putting it down, taking it up, and then putting it in landfills. I believe there's other flooring that we can use that will be better for our expense factor, but also for those exhibiting livestock, but also save us dollars. Those dollars can be used somewhere else in a very positive way. So we're looking at how we take care of the livestock and getting the best results we can from what's working other places. We don't have to be like everybody else, but we can learn from everybody else. If it works, do more of it. If it doesn't, we'll do less of it, but try to modify that, because I feel like the investments that this legislature has made in those facilities will be there for the next generation. So we can't just look to tomorrow. We got to look at long term. How can we make those dollars beneficial? So the next generation continue to enjoy the livestock shows as many of these young people behind us do, come in and participate in showing. That's an education in itself. We want to see that continue.
Representative Pollock.
Thank you. Sitting here listening, look across here and see my 4-H friends. As a 12-year-old 4-H'er, I had the privilege to take my grand champion hog to the state fair, and the experiences I took away were really, really good ones. I serve here. Obviously, we're talking about agricultural this morning, but I also serve on the tourism. You've mentioned it a little bit, but ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make sure we all know what goes on at that fairgrounds. When we talk about Bourbon and Beyond, Louder Than Life, 1,000 basketball games on a weekend with all those people, I just want to commend you, sir, on your vision, the investment you have to put back in. Think about what you're doing to bring these events to our Commonwealth, and then talk about those tourism dollars that are coming here. And so this is a win-win. And I just want to say, like Representative Tipton, thank you very, very much for you and your board and what you're doing and your vision for what you do for the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Thank you, sir. I think those kind comments.
I believe Chairman Heath.
One final comment. David Beck and I go all the way back to 1973, our senior year. We were regional FFA officers together, and it's a privilege to get to serve along beside him now. And I just wanted to let the members know that he did all this without any notes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you both for your presentation. It did pass with favorable expression, and we expect it to do so on the House floor. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is with Kentucky Fresh Harvest, David Moss. If you all would like to make your way to the table.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. My name is Shabin Sah. I'll let my other two colleagues here introduce themselves before I get started.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Bill Back. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Kentucky Fresh Harvest. We'd like to thank you and all the members of the Ag Committee for giving us the opportunity to come and speak with you today. We have an operation that's in and located in Lincoln County, Kentucky, in the city of Stamford. And that particular organization began as a concept back in 2016, literally on paper. And in 2018, we began construction. And in 2020, we actually began producing our produce. And we were the very first commercial high-tech greenhouse in the state of Kentucky to actually grow food, grow vegetables. And so we're very, very proud of that. Again, we want to thank you for taking the time to give us the opportunity to come and speak to you. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Carol Hill.
Mr. Chairman, we are delighted to be here. My name is Carol Hill. I'm a director with Kentucky Fresh Harvest and the majority owner. And I'm just going to introduce myself because we have a presentation that Dr. Saha, our Chief Operation Officer, has put together. And we just, again, thank you all very much for letting us be here. The one thing I would like to say is that we sell most of our tomatoes commercially. If you would like to purchase them, you'd have to come down to Durham's Grocery Store in Stanford, Kentucky. And I see a few smiles because some of you all know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you again, committee and chair. So just briefly, I want to give you some sort of a background about what our production facility is like and how we operate. But I also want to give you a view on the state of the industry as it is in Kentucky. And so I'll go ahead and get started with respects to time. So as Bill, our CEO, has already mentioned, we're located in Lincoln County in Stanford, Kentucky. We're 11 acres of greenhouses. First full-scale production was established in 2021 with our pilot crop in 2020. We are locally owned, Kentucky owned, and we are female and veteran owned as well. So looking here, just to introduce myself a little bit, my background and what gives me any sort of experience to speak on this type of subject matter. I hold 2 doctorates, both from the University of Florida after I received my undergraduate from University of Kentucky. I'm currently the Chief Operating Officer at Kentucky Fresh Harvest. I'm also currently the president of the Kentucky Vegetable Growers Association, also representing all those vegetable growers throughout the state. Also been a member of the Governor's Agri-Tech Task Force, as well as a board member of the Kentucky Horticulture Council. I'm sure many of you all are familiar with that. I'm also a Kentucky native. I'm currently working in private industry, as you can tell, but I spent time in academia as a professor, both at Purdue University as well as the University of Kentucky. So some of the things that I want to touch on now, some of the technologies that we use and some of the benefits of this type of production. You'll hear most people refer to it as CEA, Controlled Environment Agriculture, and I want to touch on some of the benefits of Controlled Environment Agriculture. In general, we have better water use efficiency and better nutrient use efficiency. We have increased yield per unit area. We have increased quality and shelf life, as well as extended seasons, usually doubling and sometimes tripling the length of a crop season that's grown in the open field. Say in our case, we're growing grape tomatoes. And some of the things that Controlled Environment Agriculture also allows you to do is to get into off-season, out-of-season production. So we can produce crops not just in the summertime like most of our open field producers do. So what does that also allow us to do? It allows us to capture better pricing because prices are higher in the wintertime. And so you're getting into a better market window and ultimately you're getting better pricing. Some of what you see represented here in this slide, though, is some of the basic things that are needed. We need good genetic material, as you see seeds on your left, or on my left, and we have the substrate that we're using. We use soilless substrate. There's probably 50 different types of soilless substrate, but what you see pictured here is we're growing in cocoa fiber. This is the brown husk from the external portion of the coconut. You care for the crop and you do things properly, which we'll touch on here in a moment, and you get a nice tomato crop at the end of the day. Some of the other technologies that we utilize represented here on my left is a grafted transplant. If any of you are familiar with tree fruit production, they've been grafting tree fruits for better part of 50, 60 years. Over the last 20 years, they've started grafting, and they do it extensively in other parts of the world, grafting in herbaceous plants, specifically vegetable crops. So why would we want to graft or use any of this type of technology? Number one in greenhouses and high tunnels is vigor. And what that means is we have better yield, we have better crop length cycle, because I'm sure at least some of you have experience farming and have an understanding that typical tomato crop is running about 4 months long in the open field, right? So in the greenhouse, we're running it for about 10 months, same crop from start to finish. Right now, we are picking in week 27 of the existing crop in a Greenhouse 1 South where we currently are. The other thing to point out here is we have to trellis, and you'll see in a better image here shortly that these tomato plants grow to a height of 13 feet. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. And in the middle image here, you can see some small plastic clips and some string because the plants don't just grow up the string by themselves. We have to do a little bit of work to get them there. And then the last image you see on this slide is Bombus impatiens. It's a bumblebee. I'm sure many of you have seen them outside, but what many of you don't realize is that your traditional honeybees that you see out there cannot work in a greenhouse. They cannot pollinate in a greenhouse because most of the covering material is blocking out the UV light. When you block out the UV light, that's what bees are using to navigate, specifically honeybees. Think of it if you're an aircraft pilot and you lost your radar or something like that. Bees without honeybees, I should say, without UV light have no radar, and so they'll actually just bang their head against the roof until they pass. So we have bumblebees. We actually buy bumblebees. We bring them in from a producer out of Michigan, and it's a must-have. I remind people all the time when I worked in extension and growers were reluctant to buy a hive, and I said, well, can you sell tomato leaves or can you sell tomato fruit? Because at the end of the day, I think y'all know the answer to what most consumers are looking for. Some of the other things to point out here, you can see in the image on the left, just some of the other technologies that we utilize. In the first image, there is, during the construction phase, what I'm really drawing your attention to in that image is up above. You see there's black cloth up above, and so we have automated shade cloth that operates and provides shading. You say, well, I thought the idea of a greenhouse is to optimize lighting. Well, that is in the low light level times of years like right now. But in the middle of summer, I have more solar radiation than I actually need, and so we stretch this shade cloth across the top of the crop at about 30% blockage, and it also makes it a nicer environment for the crop, and in some cases a nicer environment for the workers as well. In the center image here, you see some white pipe along the ground, and that's how we're heating our greenhouses. We have hot water boiler systems that's radiating hot water through these systems at about 200 degrees, and that is radiating up through the greenhouse, and we all know that heat rises, and so it's rising from the ground. And the other thing to point out is that the root zone is the most critical on a crop. You can have cold temperatures below freezing even on the above level portion of the crop, but as long as you're protecting the root zone, that crop can come through and make it. So in the last image, as you see here on this slide, I want to point out is you see this image of this crop now is 13 feet tall. And we do a process known as leaning and lowering. So as we start to pick up the vine and we get closer to the top of the plant, we actually have these strings on a spool like a fishing reel, and you'll let string out and drop those down. And so the portion of the plant that's been harvested will be picked bare and just be a stem, and it'll be laying horizontally, and then the top portion of the plant will curve back up and grow to the wire again. So one of the last things about our operation I want to point out is it's people. It's people, it's people, it's people. I love technology, and I love this type of horticultural production. I've been involved in it for, going on 24, 25 years now. And for all the talk about AI and all this new technology, yes, it's going to help us moving forward in the future, but I can assure you, if you've never worked in a fruit and vegetable field, it is still by hand with a very few exceptions. Processing potatoes are picked by a machine harvester, processing tomatoes and sweet corn. The rest of this is all with our hands, so it takes people. And so that'll get to a final point as we get towards the end of the slide. So let's touch on the state of the industry a little bit. I know some people may have a sour taste in their mouth from one operator that's been in the state that's no longer here in the state. However, I will say that, yes, the operator is gone. The race car is still there, y'all. It's just being driven by a different driver. So what I'm trying to here is show you that this type of production can be successful. It is part of the way of the future. It's not the only way, but it is part of the way. As I've read recently, I think we are now no longer a net exporter of food. We're now a net importer. I'm not trying to be nationalistic here, but I'll use Japan as the example. After World War II, they took a lot of pride in being able to produce their own rices. That's their number one staple. And I'm not saying that we want to stop any importation. Please don't take me that way. What I'm saying is we need to be cognizant of what's happening. We need to be ready to produce more food in our own country. And then if you want to throw all the other stuff in it, that it's local and it feels good and sustainable, so be it. But let's get to the fundamental point of feeding people. So on to the state of the industry. We've got about 216 acres of what we call high-tech greenhouses, similar to our facility, similar to 80 acres in northern Kentucky, similar to Bosch growers over in Somerset now. We have 6 different locations on these large-scale facilities with about 4 businesses. But there's also almost 2,000 smaller high tunnels and greenhouses throughout the state. And over 1,200 produce farms as well for ornamentals and for the fruit and vegetables. Annual value combined at roughly $80 million. I realize that may not touch beef cattle and that may not touch corn and beans, but $80 million is not a drop in the bucket. We understand that we have to have diversity, and we are still looking for alternatives for tobacco producers. And I think this is one of the options, not the only option, but one of the options. And growth continues overall. And the other thing I want to point out to you again really is it's not just large operations. So when I worked in extension for a decade, I helped guys in East Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, Western Kentucky take their former tobacco transplant greenhouses that they're no longer using, that were sitting and rotting, and I was able to help them with tomato production. Some of them had already started tomatoes, growing them in the soil. They were having problems, only producing about 12 pounds of tomatoes per plant in a 4-month cycle in the greenhouse. So I spent some years with them, and we've done some conversion. I've gotten them into soilless culture like what we're using at our facility, and we've taken growers, and you can see the fruit load here on this image on your right. We took them from about 12 pounds per plant to over 65 pounds per plant. And we took their crop length season from 4 months to 8 months. Just trying to illustrate to y'all that this type of technology and innovation can actually help this state. And I don't want to see potentially the failure of one operation shove us off of the plate, so to speak. These are just further images. You see the previous image was more fleshed out. These are newly transplanted facilities. You can see the trellising system that we've installed, a modified system that I've helped create from my previous training in other locations as well. I've done it in Northern Kentucky. I've done it in East Kentucky. We've done it in West Kentucky, and there's growers that are still doing it. So the last thing that I want to touch on, just in respect of time, I know we may not have time to discuss it today, but I would like you to consider this in your thought process moving forward as future bills come up. Some of these things may not be new to you. When it comes to agriculture, whether you're in horticulture or you're in row crops, agronomic crops, labor and energy. Labor and energy are huge. You heard me talk about how everything is done by hand. We need access to labor, and we need to think about it. And I realize some of that labor is at the federal level that we have to work on, and not just at the state level. Energy transparency and access to energy is also a big thing. We use a lot of natural gas. We use a lot of electricity for facilities like these. And then lastly, access to markets, particularly for our smaller growers, and trying to make that, give them opportunities to get into school systems. Horticulture, I think, is going to be part of the future of Kentucky's overall agriculture picture. And I think it's important that we consider that, look at it for opportunities for our youth, like folks sitting behind me now. They may be able to get into stuff like this down the road. I think it's really important that we not forget about this. But I do appreciate your time, and if there is any time, I'll field questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Very informative presentation. It's very impressive going from 12 pounds to over 60 pounds. That's very innovative. We do have some members that either have questions or comments. We'll start with Representative Kim King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here. I'm in the center.
I'm sorry. Appreciate it.
No, you're fine.
I've been looking around all day.
No, you are.
Looking
you
for your
are
hat.
fine. Thank you all so much for being here today. I would love to alleviate your mind. This legislator, and I know many of my peers, we have not given up on indoor greenhouses just because of one that didn't work out so well. So we understand the benefit and the potential, and thank you all for being here today to explain it. Every time we have I have the opportunity to visit with a greenhouse person, as a home cook, I like to just offer, as you diversify and take on more plants, I would like for you to consider leeks and mushrooms. A leek is very, very hard to clean as you prep it for your dishes, so I like to just offer that. Our family loves the flavor of leeks, and if that could ever be incorporated in, you'd have a good buyer right here.
I appreciate that.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative McPherson.
Yes, I was kind of, your ratios, what do you think one acre of greenhouse can ratio out to what a field harvest would be?
I mean, I think it depends on the crop, but if we use tomatoes as an easy example, I think you're looking at anywhere from 6 to 10 times.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative All.
Appreciate your presentation today. You mentioned this briefly, but I do want to ask about selling to local school districts. Are you selling to local school districts now? Are you having success? Could you tell us a little bit about that, any challenges you might be incurring in that space?
Sure, thank you. We are currently selling into several school districts. Some of them have been more open than others, so there have been some challenges. Some school districts we've had opportunities to sell with. It comes down to the volume is too small to make a delivery once a week for 20 pounds. Where I won't name any counties, but I have another county, close by to us that's taking 800 pounds a week. And that's still not a big order for us, but from a school perspective, that's well worth it. And that's part of what we want to try to do, is to get into institutional systems, get into school systems, because that's one of the things that I didn't mention that is unfortunate for a lot of our open field producers is they're producing in the summer. And aside from Jefferson County and Fayette County, I don't know a lot of counties that are doing summer school feeding. And even those that are, it's still relatively small. So it's a challenge for our growers. So for us, we fit that niche quite well because we're growing year round.
Well, quick follow-up.
Yes.
I've got a bill you might be interested in. It's House Bill 189. It's right in this space. It would do you guys a lot of good, and it's a good bill, so you ought to look at that.
Appreciate that. If I may just make one final comment.
Yes.
So you all should have a black folder there with you in hand. And so I just want to draw your attention. There's a trade magazine which speaks a little bit to our facility and this type of production as a whole, which can be a benefit of providing some insight to you all. There's also a trifold pamphlet just giving you some reference material on our facility. And then lastly, there's a congressional summary from the federal level that now the feds are truly recognizing this type of production. It is on their radar. And so I just thought it would be pertinent for you all to have some background at where the feds were at on this. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you pointing out the black folder. It blended in with the countertop, and I hadn't even seen it. So, Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate y'all being here today. You know, the average age of farmers and people involved in agriculture continues to go up. We've had a lot of young people here in the audience today, and we're glad to have them. But one thing I know about agriculture, one of the challenges is the access to capital to get involved in a project like this. For a young person who might want to go down this road, what kind of challenge and what kind of expectations would they have as far as how much capital would it take to get somebody started in something like this?
A lot.
Well, I think more specifically, though, I think it really depends on the scale you start at. And I think that scalability is one of the most important things about this type of production. I've worked for commercial growers in Florida when I was much younger, and I respect those guys. I figure they've been doing it 35 years at that time, that even though I had a doctorate, that I just got to keep my mouth shut and listen to what they're saying, because you can learn from anybody. And they said 2 to 3 acres, both growers that I worked for, was about the minimum size to get started with, because it's about giving you enough volume so you can make some orders, not too much, but not too little either. You know, at the end of the day, there's kind of a sweet spot, and that 2 to 3 acres is kind of where we're at.
And to follow up on that, if I may, what has happened is we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot of things, what not to do. And because of that, we're now in a space to where we find ourselves knowing not only what not to do, but now what to do and how's the best way to do that. But the whole idea is, as Dr. Saha has pointed out, you start small and you grow from within is what you do. And that helps keep your cost down and your initial cost down. And at the same time, it allows you to build it gradually. And that adds sustainability. So, and just as a sidebar here, I'd want everyone to know, not only were we the first commercial greenhouse in the state of Kentucky to actually grow produce, to sell produce, but we are owned by Kentuckians. This is an industry that came to Kentucky, and it's here to stay in Kentucky. So I think that's very important. We're very proud of that. We are, obviously Kentucky proud, but we're also Appalachian proud.
And if I might follow up, I know I said a lot. I think in the future it's going to be less, because I do feel like that, as I say, we've paid tuition for a whole lot of people. There's a whole lot of bankers that know more about the greenhouse projects because we've educated them on it. And when I got involved with this project, I was super passionate about this. This has to be part of the mix moving forward. I look at where it's raining all over the world and looking at water. Mexico City is getting ready to run out of water. Monterey ran out of water and was without water. When you look at the water levels in the West, even with all these storms coming in, some of those reservoirs aren't even close to being full, half full. And I'm as passionate about this today as I was when we started. And it does. Operation of this scale does take a lot of capital, and I think that we've worked with a lot of engineers, a lot of bankers, and that we are getting the infrastructure in place where they will talk to us and we're not, oh my God, this project out of the box. So hopefully in the future it's going to be a whole lot easier to get the capital if you've got the resources and the know-how to do it.
Good points. We appreciate you sharing so much information. I'm sure some of our guys will want to circle back to you if they decide to step off into that field and pick your brain a little bit. Thanks for coming today. We're going to bring our next group up. You can have a final word if you like.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say that Mr. Moss here reminded me, I did bring tomatoes for everybody here on the committee today, if you'd like. So over here on the table to my right.
I was going to say, for today and today only, Blue Light Special. Not only are they available at Durham's grocery store in Stanford, but they are right here to your my right over here.
To your left.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
We've enjoyed it. We've referenced young people in the room all morning. I wish I had said more about them before they had to leave for their next meeting, but we have 5 young ladies that have stayed with us. We want to ask all 5 of you to come to the table. I understand one of you may be the spokesman for the group, but you can grab a couple of those chairs and pull up on each side so you have 5 chairs there, and y'all can share the mics. But we'd like for you to introduce yourself, what county you're from, and what else you would like to say. There's a button there on the base of the mic. If that green light's lit up, that means you're good to talk. Just push the button below the... All right.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be brief because we know you have some places to be, as well as our 4-Hers. A lot of them have stepped out because they took the initiative of scheduling some meetings with their representatives, because that's what our whole day is. We're here with over 350 young people across the Commonwealth for our annual Capitol Experience Day today. And what that is we just have them tour the Capitol and meet their representatives and senators, just so they can get a taste of civic engagement, communication, and leadership. That's really what this event is geared towards. But I'll let my teammates introduce themselves before I give some brief remarks. But I'm Molly Kate Webb. I'm from Barron County, and I'm serving as the current Kentucky 4-H state president this year.
Hello, my name is Avery Cole. I'm our Kentucky 4-H state vice president, and I'm from Warren County.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kaylin Stokes. I'm the Kentucky 4-H state reporter, and I'm from Western Kentucky.
Crittenden County.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kinsey Owens. I am the current secretary, and I'm from Carter County.
Hello to all. My name is Maribella Corrali, and I'm the state treasurer, and I'm from Jefferson County.
So with that being said, it's truly an honor to be with you here this morning alongside my officer team. As this year's state officer team, we have pledged to illuminate Kentucky 4-H, and we would not be able to do so if it weren't for supporters like members of this committee. There are so many stories that have been written and have yet to be written because of Kentucky 4-H, and the 5 of us here are products of that. Being rooted in agriculture is just the beginning of our program, and that foundation is something that we're honored to uphold to this day. As many of you know, there are few experiences like growing up in the agriculture industry, and because of programs like Kentucky 4-H, we can provide those agricultural experiences to more than 300,000 young people across our great Commonwealth. So on behalf of Kentucky 4-H and my officer team and all the great things that are to come with the ideology of making the best better, thank you. The best is truly yet to come for this program and the young people who make it is what it is today. We truly want to thank you for recognizing that and your continued support of young people in agriculture and other facets of Kentucky 4-H. My officer team is beyond blessed with the opportunity to represent such an incredible group of young people in front of impactful groups like this committee. So we appreciate the opportunity to share our Capitol Experience Day with you today.
Thank you. Good job. I wanted to expand on that a little bit. You guys are scheduled to be available for a legislative open house in room 125 from 8:30 to 11. And then at 12:30, you'll be at the Capitol Rotunda. So probably should have had that announcement early on, but the ones that had to leave the room already had the schedule. They knew that, so this was for the benefit of our members. But thank you for coming. Come back anytime. You're welcome in this committee. We have an open door policy.
Thank you for having us, Mr. Chairman.
If there's nothing else to come before this committee, we stand adjourned.